So I think I need to start this video by stating that this is not intended as an attack on any specific person or subtype of goths. I think all of us at some point in our lives have gone out looking like an absolute goth cliche, and the classic goth looks are classics because they are awesome looks. I just really want to, in this video, kind of hold a mirror up to all of us and have a bit of a delve into why we do the things we do when it comes to the ways we dress goth. That are we really a subculture that prides itself on being strange and unusual and in being unique and free thinkers and dressing individually and expressing ourselves and all the rest of it? Or are we actually, when you look a bit closer, incredibly conformist and incredibly desperate to fit in and to be part of the same tribe? You know, all the things that we mock normal people for, you know, following trends, trying to be like everyone else. Oh, look at them all wearing their Ugg boots, or look at them all wearing their Converse trainers. But when you look at groups of goths, it's the same thing. And I just want to, in this video, kind of loop back to the beginning of this channel. That the very first video I uploaded on this channel was called something like Goths Who Miss the Point of Being Goth. One of my points was that at the time on YouTube there was a huge amount of focus on what is goth videos and on, you know, what goth is about, how to be goth, this is not goth. And it made goth seem like this very rigid, this is what you have to do, these are all the boxes you have to fit into. When to my mind, you know, a lot of what attracted me to the goth scene was the individualism and the free thinking. And when it comes to the style, I love the fact that, you know, I can go to a club looking as demented as I like. I can go there in my underwear. I can go there looking like a crazy goth ballerina. I can go there in like a tattered wedding dress or in 1920s flapper gear. And whatever I wear, it's always just going to be like, oh, okay, you felt like expressing yourself tonight. Cool. I can't think of any other scene really where you can do that. And that's what I love about it, which is why it makes me so sad when I see people who seem to assume that to be goth you have to basically do cosplay. You have to decide what sort of goth you're going to be, and then you have to dress like somebody who has already created the style. Because when I made my new goth transformation / piss take last summer, what I was really railing against, or what was really getting under my skin, was the commercialization and the homogenization of goth with the Killstar thing. That, you know, everyone gets everything from Killstar, so that from head to toe we can all look the same. And oh, guess what? We can even have identical home decor. We can all have identical cups to drink out of. We can even have identical cuddly toys, and all of us can be identical from head to foot. That was the thing that bothered me. However, since making that video and being on Instagram a bit longer and browsing hashtags and things like that, I have come to realise Killstar Goth is by far not the only one falling prey to this mindset. That, you know, just having browsed around, and these are just pictures, most of these people I do not know who they are just pictures that exemplify what I'm talking about. I think a lot of these people look awesome. What I'm talking about is just the fact that they all look like they're wearing uniforms. So cybergoth, for instance, you tend to think of cybergoth as being quite a kind of, oh, you know, they do whatever they like. It's a, you know, it's a newer offshoot and it's quite colourful. But cybergoth, whenever you look up cybergoths, basically the only thing you get to choose is the colour. And then it's exactly the same. You have the falls, the goggles, everything is exactly the same. Even when there's a whole load of you different rainbow colours, you're all wearing the same thing. The only thing you get to choose is, hey, which goth are you going to be? Are you going to be orange goth? It's like being in the Spice Girls. You know, are you going to be Ginger Spice or Posh Spice? You've still got to be one of these pre-moulded characters, and you probably don't even get to choose your own colour. If your friends got into it first, well, they've already taken blue and pink, you've got to be orange, you know. But the thing that really makes me sad is death rock and trad goth, because they really are the ones that have become the most minimized down to a very standardized look, which sucks because I love the death rock look. I really do. I follow a lot of death rock people, but you know, when you see these kind of people, they all look the same. You can't tell them apart. I mean, if I met these people I have problems with facial recognition. I would be talking to them all night, and if they kept popping away to the bar and coming back, I wouldn't know which one was which. And this is the thing. And a lot of these people, they wear Batcave patches. You know, the Batcave is this huge icon of the death rock and trad goth look. And I am going to stop picking all of this apart and actually get to the psychological underlyings of all of this in a minute. But I just want to talk about this a bit more. The Batcave, it's this idol, oh, the Batcave, I would love to go back there. I am all about the Batcave mentality. But the thing is, if you've ever actually watched a documentary where they interviewed the kids at the Batcave, you will realise that the Batcave was all about uniqueness, and it was all about outdoing people every week with the craziest looks you could come up with. And goth at this point, it was still emerging from punk. It was still mingled with a lot of 80s stuff. That meant it wasn't remotely monochrome. This whole monochrome thing was not so much a thing at the Batcave. Yes, everything was gravitating towards black, but there was still a lot of colour. People's hair, people's tights, people's makeup. I mean, it was the 80s, you know, crazy 80s makeup and glam rock and all of that was still going on. That was overlapping into it. There was a lot of leopard print. There was a lot of punk influences. And if you had have gone to the Batcave looking like a Siouxsie Sioux impersonator, which so many people do these days, you know, from head to toe, Siouxsie Sioux impersonator. If you had have gone to the Batcave like that, you would have had the piss ripped out of you completely, because at that point, Siouxsie was a current icon. She was still dressing that way. It was likely you might even go and see her live. So to dress like her clone would have been a bit weird. I mean, it would be like somebody coming along on YouTube, starting a YouTube channel and literally being a Black Friday impersonator, you know, from head to toe. And I've seen Black Friday impersonators on Instagram. I've seen Adora Batbrat impersonators on Instagram who, you know, even down to the poses that they do in their photos, that it's very weird. But you know, imagine the reaction if I started making videos clearly trying to rip off everything about Black Friday. I don't think it would go down so well. And this was the thing with the Batcave, that you didn't try and rip off Siouxsie Sioux wholesale. And if you were making a DIY'd jacket and all of this, you would try and put in there interesting, unique bands that were actually yours. You would try and have a jacket that was what you were about. Whereas these days, the really tragic thing is that the sub-elements of goth that really focus on DIY still, and that do make these gorgeous old school band patch jackets, they all tend to look like they're completely off the rack, because everyone puts the same stuff on their jackets. Everybody has, you know, the Siouxsie Sioux eyes on the back. Everyone has to have some Bauhaus, some Batcave, some Sisters of Mercy, some Alien Sex Fiends, some Mission, maybe some Joy Division, bit of Cure. The most obvious, you know, the most obvious goth bands. When it's like, look, mate, if I see you with a Death Hawk and a studded jacket and ripped fishnets, it's a pretty safe bet that you're into most or all of those bands anyway. Why do you even need to say it? If I was going to make one of these jackets, I would want it to have some pieces that were actually uniquely my influences and that were conversation started. So I'd probably put some random as balls stuff on there, like Johnny Cash, like Billie Holiday, Bruce Springsteen, Silver Sun, the Beach Boys, Alley Jukes, and some newer goth bands like Hapax and Long Night and Orations and Cruel Reflection, things like that, that, you know, that are actually current bands, because a whole part of wearing these band patched things was to show support for the bands that you might actually go and see. So what's the point of covering yourself in labels of bands that are long dead when you could be having a jacket that's conversation starters, that's like, well, that's an interesting thing. Are you really into that? That's very weird. Or never heard of those. Introduce us. Or, oh, I see they're playing live. Are they actually any good? Maybe we should go and see them. You know, I don't understand the point of spending hours and hours and hours arduously sewing and painting and studying these jackets that everyone's look the same. And obviously I can see people popping in at this point and saying, well, what do you want people to do? If they want to dress death rock and it is a great look, well, what are people supposed to do about it? And yes, death rock is a lovely look. I follow a lot of people who dress death rock. It is very stereotypical, but you know, when you see someone doing the death rock look with flair, it is undeniably stunning. However, it doesn't have to be so completely by numbers as most of the people you see tagging themselves death rock. I mean, flashing back to Razor Candy, circa about 2004, I used to stalk her on LiveJournal, and she did death rock, but hers was always stunningly kind of unique. That her colours in her hair, the bits of colour she would add in, the uniqueness of how she would do her DIY things. And yes, obviously it helps that, you know, Razor Candy is about the most beautiful human being to ever walk the earth. And my God, there are two of them. She is a twin. God was having a crazy day that day. Yes, it helps that she's stunningly beyond beautiful, but you know, her style was always so on point and so creative. And yes, even within the bounds of a very, you know, you look at it and you're immediately like, death rock, even within the bounds of that, there are things you can do. And it is kind of ironic that the icons of the goth scene, when it comes to music, they always were people who put together really weird spin-on things looks that, you know, obviously Siouxsie Sioux, when she started, that look was not a complete cliche. It was completely her invention, and we have turned it into a cliche. And obviously, like David Bowie, not necessarily goth, but, you know, I think most goths have a huge amount of respect for David Bowie because of how unique and how creative he was. You know, and obviously, even the music, like Bela Lugosi's Dead, when it came out, and it was this whole new mingling of things before it became a big cliche. And we idolise this extreme originality, this extreme mingling of influences and making something brand new, and yet we seem to be really stuck in a rut, and we seem to like to look identical to our friends. So a subtle change in stylistics here, sorry. I had to re-record the end of this video. I just wanted to make my points a little bit better. So yes, why? Why is it that some goths turn away from the path of conformity and then end up putting on a whole new uniform, competing in a whole new popularity contest and conforming just as much? I think essentially conformity is a huge part of all of us, and honestly it is the reason that the human race has done so well as a species. You know, we're not very fierce animals. We need to be indoors to stay warm. We don't have claws, we don't have teeth. We're not very fearsome animals, but we're very clever and we work in teams. And a very big part of working in teams is being a conformist. You know, if everyone was thinking for themselves and going off doing their own things, humanity would not do very well as a species. So conformity can be kind of a good thing to an extent, but equally the survival of the human race does not depend on you all dressing like clones. Again, the picture by Goth Pikes that they used to advertise their shoes, it kind of explains the mentality of many people when it comes to style, and it's one of the oldest advertising tricks in the book. You're not just selling an item, you're not just saying, oh, here's a pair of shoes, they're great shoes, you'll like them. You're saying, have these shoes and you'll be part of the in crowd. Everyone's got these shoes, the cool kids have these shoes, this is a lifestyle. If you want to be part of the goths lifestyle, you need our shoes. And a lot of people obviously liked that picture. Lots of people thought, oh great, everybody has the same shoes. Oh, I'm going to be a proper goth if I have winkle fingers just like everyone else. Maybe I've just been on the scene a little bit longer, but I saw that picture and I thought, do I really want a pair of winkle pickers? I'd been thinking about it, then I saw that picture and I thought, I mean, do I really want to go to a party and have the same shoes as everyone else there? I mean, don't we usually think of it as a bit of a faux pas to go to a party and end up wearing exactly the same outfit as someone else? It's usually a bit embarrassing. It's like, oh, we came as twins. Oh, that's a bit embarrassing. But for some reason, on the goth scene, we seem to think all having identical shoes, identical haircuts, identical anks around our neck, and you know, identical Siouxsie Sioux eyeliner. We all seem to think it's a good thing. But the thing I want to press home to you is that if you do this, if you look exactly the same as all your friends, or even exactly the same as all the people on the internet, you know what happens when you go to a party wearing the same thing as someone else. You are automatically going to be compared to them. You know, two people in exactly the same dress, immediately you have the hot one and the other one. I'm sorry, but people, this is the way they think. And I've experienced this. I went to a goth Christmas party and I wore a sexy Santa dress. There was one other girl there in the sexy Santa dress, and immediately horrible comments because it became a competition, and all night I had guys coming up and going, you look really, really good in that Santa dress. She should not be wearing that. Like, you look way better than her. It's like, I didn't come here to be competitive. It's a Christmas party. Anyone can wear a sexy Santa dress, and she's just across the room. I don't want to be part of this weird collusion of bitchiness just because she's heavier than me in the same dress, but that's what happens. So if you are one of these people who wanders around in a posse looking identical to your friend, realise this. People see you and they don't go, oh, squad goals. They go, hot one, other one. Do you want to be the other one? Do you want to make your best friend be the other one? Because that's what's happening when you do dress the same as people. But as for why people do it, I think it's mostly the younger goths you see doing the real kind of clone thing, that, you know, they will either latch onto the new goth thing and it'll all be, you know, the big hats and the black and white occult stuff and the drapey witchy things, or they'll decide they're going to be a proper death rock goth and they'll get a Death Hawk, Susie Sue makeup, ripped tights, or the DIY band shirt, but, you know, all very, very by the book, just like I was saying. But I think the reason that younger goths do this is that most goths in their teenage years, we're not generally the popular kids at high school. Generally, we're loners at high school. And if you are a bit of a loner during your formative years, you don't end up with a solid identity, because a large part of your identity is a group thing. You know, at high school, are you one of the cool kids or the sporty kids? Or, you know, are you one of the stoners, one of the math geeks, one of the drama kids? If you are a bit of a loner, you don't end up with that solid identity. And at that age, you know, you're emerging into being your own person. It's the kind of age where your mom stops buying your clothes, you buy your own clothes, you become your own person. There's an enormous amount of pressure to know who you are at that age. That, you know, people are asking you to pick the subjects you're going to take all the way through college, through uni. If you're going to be a doctor, you have to decide on that, even though the amount of studying you're going to take is going to take as long as half the time you've been on the planet. It's such a young age to be making such big decisions. But that's what happens. You're a teenager and people expect you to know everything about the rest of your life. And I think as a result of all of that, a lot of teenagers do feel, oh my God, I need to have an identity. I need to be certain in who I am. And it's far harder to craft, you know, a completely unique identity, to just go, I'm going to be my own person. I'm going to be a weird, quirky oddball. It's far easier to have an identity that is a pre-formed identity. And goth, particularly very stereotypical goth, it's a preformed thing. You know, everyone these days, goth has been around long enough that if you walk down the streets looking like a very stereotypical goth, everyone is going to look at you and go, there's the goth. That's a goth. And that's a solid identity. It's better than being, oh, I'm a teenager, I don't know, I'm too young to know what's going on in my life. I don't know who I am. I haven't really decided yet. You feel you have to be certain about everything. You can't seem naive. It's such a teenage crime to seem naive. You know, you have to be very jaded. You have to be around forever. Oh, nothing excites me. This is the way to be cool as a teenager. So you latch onto goth as an identity. I know who I am. And you do tend to find that the teenage goths who are the loudest about, it's not a phase, I'm not having a phase, this is for life, this is who I am, those are usually the goths who actually grow out of it the fastest, because they're so determined. I must know who I am. It's a little bit the lady doth protest too much. But anyway, even the goths who do stay goth for the rest of their lives, I think most of us, you know, self included, you do start out as a bit of a stereotype. I think partly because you're joining this scene that does have a bit of a reputation for elitism, and you know that you're not going to be doubted or questioned or insulted on the goth scene if you look like a complete stereotype. You know, if you go to a goth club, you know, with the Death Hawk, with the Susie Sue eye makeup, the rip tights, all the rest of it, nobody is going to insult your style. Because the thing is, it's not really your style. It's not your decision. It's not like you know you went like this. You're taking a risk, and people can look at you and go, well, what the fuck is that? You know, I don't think you really nailed that. That's a bit weird. You might be insulted. Whereas if it's the Death Hawk, if it's everything, they're not going to insult you because that's what everyone looks like. B, even if they do insult you, they're not insulting you, they're just insulting goth, you know? And I think an example of this was when Drac Makens first got her Deathhawk, and there were a lot of like younger teenagers who clearly didn't know much about goth, going, what's with that haircut? Like, you've shaved the sides, but why have you left this weird bit of hair here? It looks like a sideburn. What's that about? And Drac Makens replied saying, that's just what a Deathhawk is. That's the style. I think she actually ended up shaving those bits off. But you know what I mean? If it had have been her decision to just, I'm going to make a wacky haircut and I'm going to leave this bit, and people have been like, that looks weird, you know, she might have been offended by it. But when it's like, it's a style, it's a thing, people can't question it. If you're a teenage goth, you're a bit confused about who you are, stepping into a pre-formed identity is a very easy way to shake off your past. You know, if you were an awkward, lonely loner kid and you didn't really have any friends, you didn't have a group identity, immediately changing your appearance in a dramatic way, it's a big solid statement of, I am a new person now. And that's certainly how it was for me. And whenever there are big changes in my life, I tend to change my hair first. It tends to be quite easy to go, new chapter, starting over, new self. And I think that's a lot what teenagers do with this, that it literally kind of is cosplay in the beginning. That I've never done cosplay properly, but I do love, if there's like a character in a film or a TV show and I love their style, I like to buy screen accurate pieces and just incorporate them into my wardrobe. You know, into just like with the rest of my clothes, I'm like, I like that piece, but I'm going to put it with my stuff. But there's like a very nice feeling about wearing cosplay garments, because it's kind of like you feel quite confident. You feel like I'm taking on someone else's personality. I'm taking on a bit of them. And I think that's how a lot of younger goths feel when they take on this very solid, pre-existing, stereotypical goth look. It's like, I am becoming this persona that already exists. You know, I don't have to make my own thing. I don't have to make choices. I don't have to style my own thing. This is a persona that exists, and it's the structure that they step into, and hopefully you eventually, you know, that's the scaffolding, and you eventually grow round it like a vine and break out and become your own version of a goth. That's hopefully where it goes. So anyway, I think I've basically finished my waffle here. Again, this was not intended as an attack on any specific person or subtype of goth. I just feel it does need pointing out that, you know, it's an alternative scene. And in the beginning, it was all about expressing yourself and being different. And the goth scene would not be here if it weren't for the extremely unique, bizarre mingling of things. You know, taking Bela Lugosi's Dead as I think the song that many people think is really the point that goth exploded as a thing. Bela Lugosi's Dead, you're taking kind of discordant, weird punk sound, making it all dark. And then, of all things, you're throwing in Victorian horror stories into the punk mixture. And I mean, what a bizarre thing to do, but hasn't it spawned something gorgeous? And as a result, you know, if you are a part of that scene, I think it does a great disservice to that scene if you're going to follow something unique and be a part of something unique, but do it by putting on a uniform that has none of your own personality in it. I mean, I don't know any goths who aren't creative. We are all creative types, even though a lot of goths I've found are computer people. Like, most of the goths I know work in computers some way, you know, some sort of IT. So computer brained, but equally, I don't know any goths who aren't a bit creative. You know, I know someone who does really weird 3D printing, makes amazing 3D printing things. I've known people who do acting, who play music, lots of musicians, lots of artists. Goths tend to be creative types. So I think, you know, use that in your style. If you're gonna do DIY and things, make it actually express you. Don't just feel you have to make a uniform kind of, you know, all the tick the box goth bands, you know, Susie and The Cure and The Mission and Sisters of Mercy and Bauhaus and Batcave and all the things you've got to put on there. You know, it's a given you're into those things. You know, maybe put a couple of them on there, but actually put your own influences in there too. And if you, as I say, if you are walking around looking exactly the same as your friends, people probably aren't seeing you as like, oh, the cool goth posse. They are comparing you. One of you is the hot one. The rest of you are the other ones. Do you want to be a whole load of other ones with one hot one? Like, you know, like your mean girls, like, you know, like your, ooh, I get to be the coolest one. The other ones, they're just, you know, they're just here to make me look better. Do you want your friendships to be like that? Or would you all like to be unique so that people look at you, you know, and it's genuinely, to my mind, you know, squad goals should not mean using your friends as accessories. Like this picture of again, Adora Brat Brat and the coolest, hottest goths at Meriluna all deciding they're going to have white hair and they're going to be the power posse. Look at us, we're going to throw our individualism aside so that we can look like we rule the roost and mate ourselves together as the hot ones. Squad goals, I think, should mean, you know, all of you being unique, being an awesome group of unique people. And you know, you shouldn't necessarily have to handpick your friends for being hot so that you can all look good together. Yes, goth, it's an alternative subculture. The whole point is that you can do your own thing. And as I said at the beginning, one of the things I love most about the goth scene is being able to go to a club, however bizarre I feel like dressing, that you don't have to wait for Halloween. We all love Halloween. Because, you know, it's the spooky time, it's the time you can go out and you can really go crazy with your style. But the thing is, Halloween, you know, the whole thing that people say about goth, every day is Halloween, and it can be, that's the thing, it literally can be. If you want to dress in a tattered, bizarre wedding dress, if you want to dress up as a 1920s flapper, if you want to dress as a kind of ninja, you can do those things and you can get away with them because goth allows you to be an eccentric lunatic. That is what I love about it. That is the thing you should embrace. It does unfortunately mean that clothes shopping becomes very expensive because it's not like I see something and go, oh, that's so me, I need that. There's no such thing really as so me. There are like a million different shades of so me. I see a lot of things online, I'm like, that is not remotely me. That doesn't really suit my personality at all, but it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun, and dressing up is so fun, and is such an acceptable thing on the goth scene to dress up in crazy things and embrace that. Put your creativity to use and create a unique thing so that no one is going to compare you to someone else, the hot one, the other one. No, embrace the freedom to dress up and be as crazy as you like on the goth scene. And as far as being afraid of elitists picking holes in you if you dress too crazy, I mean, I do get the occasional weird comment on here from people being like, you don't look like a goth, you look like someone dressing up for Halloween. And it's like, dude, at this point in my life, I really don't care. I've been on the goth scene for long enough to not give a shit if someone half my age who's probably never been to a goth club thinks I don't fit into a very small, narrow goth cliche box. I don't care. But obviously if I was 16 and just starting out and someone said that to me, yes, I might be, oh my god, somebody on the internet on the other side of the world thinks I'm not goth enough. Oh my god, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to change everything about myself, dye my hair black, look like everybody else. Don't be afraid of that, because those people are fucking idiots. And I do intend to make a video about elitism. I have a lot of things to say that are not the things I've ever heard anyone else say. So I do want to talk about that. But in general, it is not something to be afraid of. And yes, the main thing, goth, alternative subculture. There is no right way to be alternative. There is only your own way. So if you're doing it your own way, you are doing it the right way. If, however, you are avidly searching hashtags and ripping off other people's style and trying to make yourself look exactly like someone else online, as I say, I have seen Adora Bat Brat impersonators, I have seen Black Friday impersonators on Instagram and things, and realise that you're always going to be a second-rate version. If you're trying to be someone else, you're always going to be a second-rate version. The only first-rate version you can be is yourself, so do that and do it hard. And with that said, I'm going to shut up. I have a feeling this is a very, very long video now, but going away now. And yes, let's try and keep the comments positive and not pick people apart for being too similar to other people. Just try and encourage people in their uniqueness. And yes, if you have if you have people on Instagram or YouTube or whatever who you think do Gothic style in a very cool, unique way, maybe link them away, give people some inspiration in the genuinely strange and unusual category, because yes, wandering around with a pin badge on saying strange and unusual while looking exactly like everybody on the Death Rock hashtag makes me sad. So yes, embrace the uniqueness. I'm going to shut up now and go away. Bye bye.